In today's discussion, let's dive into the winners and losers for the Atlanta Falcons following the NFL Draft. There are definitely players who are feeling optimistic about the team's direction, while others might be feeling a bit uneasy after the recent selections made by the front office. First up on my list of winners is Michael Penix Jr. Now, this might seem a bit surprising since the Falcons didn't make any major offensive picks in the early rounds. However, I can imagine Penix sitting at home watching the draft unfold and feeling relieved as he saw General Manager Terry Fontenot and head coach Raheem Morris focus on building a stronger defense. Since Fontenot took the reins in 2021, the Falcons have struggled defensively, ranking 29th in points allowed, giving up over 24 points per game. Thankfully, they share a division with the Carolina Panthers, but for Penix, it's not just about flashy offensive picks, it's about winning games. Imagine being a quarterback who puts up 24 points only to have the defense say, "Sorry, that wasn't enough." That's a heavy burden for any quarterback to carry. With the new defensive picks, Penix can breathe a little easier knowing he won't have to score 30 points every week just to secure a win. In fact, I did some research, and since 2022, the Falcons have a win percentage of 71% when they score 24 or more points. In comparison, the league average is 78%. While the difference may not seem huge over a 17-game season, that could mean the difference between watching the playoffs from home or actually competing in them. Last season, the race for the playoffs was incredibly tight, especially between the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, for Penix, having a defense that can support the offense is a huge plus. If you're still skeptical about the defense, consider this. Since 2017, the Falcons have lost 18 games when scoring 24 or more points, which puts them in the bottom third of the league. They've been in the same conversation as teams like the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, known for their struggles despite having high-scoring offenses. The Falcons' defense needed a makeover, and while I wasn't overly confident in their improvements during free agency, the draft has changed that perception. They lost key players like Grady Jarrett and Matthew Judon, but they also added promising young talents like Pearson and Walker, who are fast and athletic edge rushers. Pairing them with a veteran like Leonard Floyd, who consistently brings in 8 to 9 sacks a season, and a speedy linebacker like Devin Diablo gives this defense a fresh identity under Raheem Morris. The focus on speed is evident in their draft strategy, and I believe this defense will be faster and more effective in 2024. What do you think? Has the Falcons' defense truly improved, or am I just caught up in the excitement of the draft? It's easy to get swept away in the optimism that comes with new picks, but I genuinely believe there's potential for growth here. I have to say, I really like what the Atlanta Falcons did in this draft. However, not everyone is feeling the same way. One player who might be feeling the heat is Arnold Ebiketie, the former second-round pick from Penn State. When I mentioned earlier that some players were likely feeling the pressure after the draft, I was definitely thinking of him. In the past couple of months, the Falcons have made some significant moves. They signed Leonard Floyd, who plays the same position as Ebiketie, and they also drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce. On top of that, they selected Braylon Trice in the third round last year, who missed the entire season due to a torn ACL, but is set to return this year. With all these additions, Ebiketie is quietly fighting for a spot on the roster. The Falcons have brought in 3 new players at his position, and it can't be encouraging for him to see the team trade back into the first round to grab yet another edge rusher. The pressure is definitely on for Ebiketie, especially after 2 seasons with only 6 sacks. Atlanta is looking for players who can consistently get to the quarterback, and unfortunately, he hasn't delivered on that front. With Pierce and Walker now in the mix, they are not just likely to make the roster, they are expected to play significant roles in the defensive game plan. One was the 15th overall pick, and the other was someone the Falcons were so eager to get that they were willing to sacrifice their first-round pick next year. I'm excited to see how this revamped pass rush performs, especially with Leonard Floyd joining the team after a solid season with 8.5 sacks. He's returning to his home state of Georgia, and I think he'll make a big impact. However, it seems like Ebiketie might not be a major part of that picture moving forward. Now, shifting gears to the winners, let's talk about cornerback Mike Hughes. He signed a 3-year contract in free agency, which shows the team's commitment to him. When the Falcons didn't draft a traditional cornerback, it solidified Hughes' position as a starter for the upcoming season. They didn't bring in anyone who could potentially replace him in the near future, which means it's more or less his job to lose. If they had selected a cornerback like Will Johnson in the second round, it might have indicated that they were already planning for life after Hughes. Instead, the closest they came to addressing the secondary was drafting Oklahoma safety Billy Bowman, who they planned to move to nickel corner. This shouldn't infringe too much on Hughes' role, so he likely breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the draft unfold. On the flip side, safety Jordan Fuller, who joined the Falcons from the Panthers and played under Raheem Morris with the Rams, might not have been as pleased. After winning a Super Bowl together, Fuller probably wasn't thrilled to see Xavier Watts selected in the third round. That pick likely served as a wake-up call for him, reminding him that he needs to earn his spot on the roster. Competition is always a part of the game, and it's clear that Fuller will have to step up his game to secure his position. If we take a closer look, I could argue that the first 3 picks the Falcons made in this draft are among the best selections in the team's recent history. While Jordan Fuller might be feeling a bit uneasy about the draft, I think he was relieved that the Falcons didn't go after a safety in the early rounds. Now let's shift our focus to my third and final winner, General Manager Terry Fontenot. I believe this draft has produced his best trio of first picks since he took the job. Selecting Jalen Walker, James Pierce, and Xavier Watts could very well be the highlight of his tenure as GM. Let's rewind to Fontenot's first draft in 2021. He chose Kyle Pitts with the 4th overall pick, which was a solid choice. However, his next 2 picks, safety Richie Grant and offensive lineman Jalen Mayfield, didn't pan out as well. You could argue that he was 1 for 3 or even 0 for 3, considering the expectations that come with a top 5 pick. In 2022, Fontenot selected Drake London at number 8. While that was a good pick, injuries have limited his impact, making it hard to fully assess. Then in 2023, he picked Bijan Robinson in the first round, which was a fantastic choice, along with Matthew Bergeron, who has proven to be a solid guard. Zach Harrison, taken in the third round, has been a decent rotational player, but expectations were low for him. Overall, that draft was probably his best up to that point. Last year, Fontenot selected Michael Penix, and while it's still too early to judge, early signs are promising. He also picked Brylan Trice, but we can't grade that selection yet since he missed the entire season. Now, in this latest draft, I genuinely believe Fontenot has secured the best 3 first picks of his career. Sure, recency bias might be influencing my opinion, but I truly believe that Walker, Pierce, and Watts can all become starters for the Falcons by the end of the season. As we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think emerged as the biggest winner or loser from this draft? Is it one of the 5 players I mentioned, or did I overlook someone? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in today, and if you haven't already, be sure to click that subscribe button